What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for us to talk about AEW's Double or Nothing 2020 pay-per-view, which just went down a few moments ago. So we're going to give you our quick thoughts, our first impressions, a rundown of the card, the results, breakdown, everything else that we normally do here on the Pay-Per-Viewpoint results post-show. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are our usual suspects of Robert D. Felice.
Hello.
And Callum Wiggins.
I'm a happy camper.
You're a happy camper. Rob, are you going camping as well?
I'm not going camping, but it warms my heart that Callum's a happy camper.
I've never
It's
gone
rare,
camping
I
in my
know.
life. I don't think I ever will. But I'm on the positive spectrum here. That's good. Hopefully everybody else is too that's listening here. Obviously, whether you are on the happy side or the not so happy side, tell us your thoughts anyway in the comment section below. And as I've mentioned every time that I keep bringing this up all the time in the future as well, if you are listening to us on a platform that does not have a comment section on it, like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or something like that, then hop on over to one that does. And if you don't want to necessarily take part of something like the YouTube channel or something like that, then go to the page on smarkatmoment.com or send a tweet at smarkatmoment or post something on the Facebook or something like that. But the best way to communicate with us and to keep the discussion going is to go on the video of the YouTube channel. And while you're there, hit the like button as well to give us a little bit of a boost on the search algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. And ring that little notification bell. That way you'll be aware of when videos get posted, when we go live, and anything else that you might want to get with those notifications. But yeah, tell us your thoughts on this event. Tell us your thoughts on our thoughts on this event, because we're about to run that down here. Starting with the buy-in. There was a number one contenders match. It was a tag team match between Best Friends and Private Party. Not a bad match. It was one of those things where if it wasn't for a number one contender spot, I think I would have been a little bit more down on it because it would have just felt like it was kind of pointless, but it did its job. It was whetting the appetite type of thing. And I'm glad the Best Friends won. So it was for something. It kind of ate up a little bit of time. It wasn't bad. And thumbs up when it comes to that. How you guys feeling?
Imagine that. Stakes in a match make you care about the match. I thought it was good. I like the little tribute to Crime Time with their finishing move by Private Party, and Best Friends won because that was the right call. All positive things.
I hate to actually start this on a low note, considering how much I enjoyed this show, but I thought this match was really bad.
Why?
Because Private Party botched half their moves in this entire thing. There was that tornado DDT that they attempted from, I don't know what they call that. They call it the sling back or something along those lines. Where
The silly string.
Yeah, the silly string, where they basically landed. He landed right on top of Bretta's leg and seemed to injure Bretta at that point. So they had to make up with that. There was a lot of like Hurricane Rana spots that went awry and a mixture of other dives that just didn't connect. It looks like Private Party were very ring rusty. I think like the actual story it told in the match was fine if it what did go a little bit long, which is usually the story for a lot of AEW matches.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't think that it was like Private Party in particular. I think Best Friends were fine, but they've been wrestling regularly, so they're in ring shape and they've been competing quite often. I think the Private Party's performance kind of dropped this down a level.
Well, at this point, AEW matches having botches in them and going too long is just a regular thing for me. So I'm almost kind of like editing that out of my perception of the matches too. But I do have a note written down that says the whole series of moves leading to the G9 was a total mess. And when you have to redo moves and stand around and wait for each other to do things, then it breaks the immersion. So
yeah, they're very slow as well. Like every time they were doing Irish whips and running towards stuff, it looked like, particularly with I think it was Quen, they just seemed to be like stepping to it like a fast jog rather than actually running. So yeah, I don't think Private Party put on a very good performance in this match.
this was not my least favorite match of the night, but it wasn't my favorite either. It was just one of those like it sort of did its job. I'm not the biggest Private Party fan, so I wasn't expecting to love it. Didn't feel a big letdown or anything like that. But I think we're all in agreement best friends winning is the right call, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So let's move to the first match of the main card. It was the casino ladder match. Before we get into like the specifics of what happened, who the mystery person was, all that stuff, how did you guys feel about the intervals?
Uh,
I didn't
I
mind it
mean,
as much as I thought.
it's a trademark now of AEW's thing, so I guess I'm kind of used to it, and I don't think it hampered the match in any way.
What about you,
I
Rob?
thought it was. I really enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie. As much as you would think, well, this is dumb because you can win the match before everybody gets involved. It played out really well, and it allowed everybody to shine in ways that didn't involve like, okay, I need to sell a forearm for 10 minutes because this guy's got to do his shit.
Yeah, I don't know if this is something that it's going to be harder to do going forward the more that they do, or if this maybe figured out one of the little flaws with a regular ladder match that has so many people, but I thought it worked a lot better than I thought that it would, as did the poker chip hanging. I didn't think that looked all that bad. Kind of neat. What are my notes here? I got Darby Allin jumping off the ladder with a skateboard reminds me so much of Jeff Hardy setting himself up for failure in these types of matches. That was probably the
Yeah,
biggest spot of the night, if I remember, outside of like, maybe some other things for the Stampede and stuff, but like as far as the ladder match goes.
yeah, that was probably the scariest and dumbest looking spot in the entire thing. Because yeah, just trying to jump onto Kazarian on a ladder bridge with a skateboard, and then just completely missing and crashing and burning, just going leg first into those ladders. Just, I mean, I hope this guy never does injure himself, but he's aiming towards that with his current style of wrestling.
Yeah, he's begging for it.
Yeah,
Darby Allin doesn't give a fuck. Like, I love it. I think Darby Allin is going to be such a big star, and it was weird, but it was very much his own thing. I do want to call attention real quick to limiting these crazy spots as much as you can, because as we've seen, Ray Phoenix was not in this match because he decided to do a full-on twisting corkscrew plancha on Dynamite and just, landed hard on the floor and had to be replaced.
Well, Jimmy Havoc didn't even really do like a spot. He ended up falling weird and like smacking onto the ladder in the corner. So sometimes, I mean, you could do some crazy stuff here, or you could just slip and just make it even worse for yourself or so. And Darby Allin volunteering to be like, "I'm about to jump off the thing with my skateboard and just land awkwardly." Not a good time. It was fun to watch. As was Orange Cassidy. I really liked that. I didn't catch this before, or if I did, I forgot about it. That they bill him as being from wherever and weighing whatever.
Yeah, they do
yeah.
that every week.
And that they refer to him as the laconic and sloth-like Orange Cassidy. I loved having him try to figure out a way that he could just grab the chip without getting a ladder and then standing on the ladder horizontally and everything like that. He's awesome. He's my favorite by far.
I enjoyed the fact that him going up to the commentary table before making his entrance and just asking them what he has to do. Or
Yeah.
like, do I have to actually get up there and climb the ladder?
It's just like, ah, shit. Like,
I
really don't
did
wanna
do
do
like
that.
it. It's something that you're only gonna see from one character. They need to keep it to one character because he works. But I thought this was a shining moment for him.
Just to backtrack slightly before moving ahead, it was kind of feeding into what I think we've alluded to at least a little bit on the pre-show, the idea of Scorpio Sky and Frankie Kazarian maybe breaking up down the line, because they decided to start with those two against each other. And there were instances throughout the match where you kind of got the impression that they might be having a few like wedges in the SCU faction. Like I think there was a spot where I think it was Kip Sabian it might have been Kip Sabian hits Frankie Kazarian on the ladder with a steel chair, and then Scorpio Sky hit Sabian with it, and then Frankie turned around and thought that it was actually Scorpio Sky with the chair that had hit him. And then you had the spot towards the end with them both climbing up the ladder and fighting on top of it. So maybe it's not like a long-term thing, but I could imagine them having a match sometime in the next couple of weeks just to air out any frustrations.
That could work.
For sure. I mean, you got a new secondary belt to fight for.
And they're going to split up eventually anyway, so if they're going to do a feud, they can do a feud. If they want to just sort of transition somebody a little bit in one way or another, it's going to be Scorpio. But Christopher Daniels has been sort of on the outs a little bit here and there, and it seems like almost from the very beginning that SCU has been sort of like, at some point they're going to break up, so the hammer's going to fall at some point. We had our ninth competitor, and it started out with Taz's voice, and I was like, holy fuck, is Taz wrestling? Just kind of like, that's not gonna happen. But he says, he introduces Brian Cage, who
You're not familiar with, I imagine.
I'm a little bit familiar with him, not super well. I've seen like one or two of his matches or so, and he competed at All In, I think, right?
He was in the Battle Royal.
Okay, yeah. So I know I've
or
seen him
he
in
was.
that.
I don't know. I think he was.
Something. I've seen like one or two of his Impact matches or so, and he was just one of those guys that he has a good build to him and everything. He's huge. Seems like he would be better fit in WWE in some capacity, but the fact that he stands out so different from the people on AEW is pretty awesome. I think he's a pretty good addition to the roster in that way. I haven't seen any of his matches to really be like, okay, well, he's consistently great or consistently bad. From what I've seen, he seemed okay. So thumbs up as far as I'm concerned when it comes to just him popping up and also him winning the match for that matter.
I know JR had referenced this on his podcast a while ago, but they've done a great job in getting athletic big men. Brodie Lee, Brian Cage, Archer, Wardlow are all great different pieces to the puzzle, and they're going to add some depth to the roster.
Yeah, Cage is a great addition. He's obviously got the power advantage, and due to the size of a lot of other people in AEW, he's going to stand out very well. But he's also incredibly athletic. I mean, the most fun section of the match for me was the exchange between him and Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
Because you just saw two guys who should really just be doing a load of, like, maybe in like 20, 30 years ago, but just doing a load of bear hugs and like just forearms to the face, and they were doing like savate kicks and flipping out at each other's choke slams and stuff along those lines. They're really, really freakishly talented, and I think that it's a really good move to have him on the roster because he's someone who can mix it up with, from what I've seen anyway, can really mix it up with any style of wrestler and make it work. So him winning is also good because it could, like, him facing Moxley, I think, could work out well. But obviously, we don't know what the circumstances are surrounding when is he going to cash in, or like when can he cash in that World Championship opportunity? Because it seems like, at least initially, the thing that makes the most sense is a feud with Darby Allin.
Although it's funny because he was towering over him. Like, he made Darby Allin seem like a little child or something.
We called this, but we thought it would be Jeff Cobb instead, who I think matches Taz's style a little bit more. But Brian Cage is good. I'm interested to see where they go with Taz. I'm not the biggest fan of Taz post-retirement. I think he lost a lot of his steam a while ago, but I'm willing to give it a shot.
I think Taz has been significantly more insightful and useful to AEW than he was in his last stages in WWE, and definitely during his entire run in TNA.
Yeah, he's not saying yam bag. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so I think that he could work because, like, the mouthpiece. Not that Brian Cage needs a mouthpiece from what I've seen from some of his promo work, but just to be that veteran introducing him to a new audience. I think that, yeah, the stuff that he was doing with Allin, even though, again, it was scary, like the idea of just hoisting him up onto that ladder and then just throwing him off is, again, just Allin having a bit of a death wish about him. But that's what's getting him over.
I did think it was funny that he put him on there and he was slipping and falling, so they're like, cut away. He reset that back up.
Yeah, I guess the one, like, overarching negative that I have this match is that there was too much outside interference.
A lot of that.
I mean, it's already a 9-man match. You need to have. I think the Jimmy Havoc thing made sense because Sabian is a coward, and so it makes sense that if in a no disqualification match, he'd get all the other stuff involved. But then Best Friends coming down and Marco Stunt getting involved, and it just was too many moving parts, really. Yeah, just too many moving parts.
It seems like AEW, they have a small roster, and they're just so damn determined to let everybody get their shit in that it sometimes hurts them.
I have another little note that I had forgotten about that says, Jimmy Havoc better not use that tie to choke out Justin Roberts instead of Orange Cassidy. Just ask Daniel Bryan what happens.
Jesus.
Yeah, I like the idea of Brian Cage going forward with that, and I think that he might be a good option for the next champion. Especially if they make this like Money in the Bank style where you can cash it at any time. They still didn't really clarify that yet, so I don't know if that's how they're playing this out, or if this is basically like you have to call your shot in advance and be like, I'm going to fight you at All Out. But it might be like the spur of the moment cash in type of thing.
I think it would be a little on the nose if it was the spur of the moment thing, especially because of the fact they had to win it in a ladder match as well.
Yeah, maybe it'll be like you can call your shot, but you have to have a match.
Like later on that night or something like that.
Or like, yeah, like you have to give the champion time. You can't just WWE it, for lack of a better term, and just, I'm going to fight you right now. Ring the bell.
I think that they might be not specifying it because they might not even know either.
No. I mean, they had something in Lucha Underground, which was fairly similar, which was a title called the Gift of the Gods Championship, where you could essentially trade in that title belt in order to challenge the next week for the World Championship. So they could do something along those lines.
I'd be down for it.
I think even though it's biting off of the Money in the Bank, I think the spur of the moment cash-in's the most exciting thing, but they can prove me wrong. There's always an option to do something else, and especially since it's only one of them so far, they could get away with almost anything at this point. If they wanted to do something where he challenges Moxley for All Out, then he could just say it ahead of time, and then it doesn't have to set the standard. They could always change it in the future. Especially because I think that in the future they'll probably do the Casino Battle Royale again instead of this, but I don't know. We'll see. Let's move to MJF against Jungleboy. MJF wins by pinfall instead of. I thought he'd win with the Salt of the Earth finisher. I was a little bit surprised about that. Good match.
I don't think they want Jungleboy tapping out.
Maybe not. I liked it. I didn't love it. I have it as one of the highlights, but it was one of those things that I don't really remember too much specifically about it afterward. It was like the chop fest and just like solid back and forth action. Not something that's super duper memorable, but I liked it.
This was my favorite match outside that actually took place within the arena. Yeah, this was an awesome match. It's just it's old school, but with a new spin on it because these guys have a great deal of athleticism and ability. So it's like if you could go back and watch the Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat type matches, but then Ricky Steamboat at some point pulls off a Dragon Rana on the ring apron. It's that sort of it's got the stuff that the indie guys would like, but it's got the bare nuts and bolts of just a very solid traditional wrestling match. And yeah, I think even though we were pretty certain going into it this match would be good, and these two are like the future of wrestling, I'm as convinced now as I ever will be that these two are who will be the top stars in professional wrestling in the next 5 to 10 years.
I do have to disagree with you about one thing. This was not the match with the bare nuts.
Damn it, Tony.
Come on, I had to do that. If I wouldn't have done that, I would have hated myself. Anyway.
I'd be okay if you hate yourself.
More than I already do? Come on, I don't have that much wiggle room. You like this a lot too, though, Rob?
I loved it. They're fantastic, and they put these two together because they knew that they would have a great match. And it was everything it needed to be. And MJF continues to wiggle his way up the roster by any means necessary. And he's eventually going to be champion. I don't know if he'll beat Moxley, but he's a strong candidate to do so.
Yeah, I love the fact that they emphasized the fact that MJF has been beaten, or at least like he has lost the match, but that was just in a fatal 4-way. He hasn't been pinned or made to submit yet. And even though I highlighted the fact that they were doing like the reverse hurricane ranas and like the cravat suplexes and all this other cool stuff, it was like some really basic stuff. Like I think at one point Jungleboy blocks a chop attempt by MJF by just kicking his arm while he's chopping. And I thought, that's so simple, and I've never, ever seen that in a match before. I don't think I've ever seen anyone block a chop with a kick before. And yeah, it was just the constant selling of the shoulder injury. So when Jungleboy got a crossface on, he couldn't hold on for it for long enough because the work that had been done on the shoulder. It's just really, really simple but effective stuff. Like, it was excellent. Absolutely excellent.
Let's see. That transitioned us over into the TNT Championship match. We got to talk about the belt first.
The belt isn't finished, thank God.
I'm still not feeling it, but see, the part that's not finished is the plating, right?
Yeah.
I hate...
Yes, so there's been gold plating.
Yeah, I actually don't mind the silverish kind of tone to it. I hate the red strap, and that's finished.
I don't mind the red strap except for the influence, which is okay, this is me speculating. I shouldn't say it's fact, but like I think it comes from the NWA Television Championship, and to me, it's a little too much with we just want to be we want to call back to the NWA. I also don't like that the center plate is so plain.
Very plain.
It's too plain for me. I mean, I spent way too much time tonight nitpicking the championship, but I will say, I think it'll grow on me.
Like, to be fair, the TNT logo is very plain because every network logo is very plain. I mean, they can't really have a little bug in the corner that's super complex and, a whole ornate kind of thing going all over the place. But I think you can get around it a little bit better than just a circle with TNT on the inside. But to me, the bigger deal is I hate that red strap. I hate every single colored strap like that. Whether it's...
Well, that's a personal vendetta you have. I don't know why you don't like colored straps.
It just looks ugly to me. Like, whether it's like orange or purple or green or red or blue or whatever, none of them look good to me. It's only the black and the white ones that look good to me. I just see things in black and white, I guess. I don't know. But I think adding the gold plating to it's going to make it look worse because I think gold and red don't work as well together as silver and red too. And I kind of like the idea of the mid-card title being silver. So knowing that it's going to look like that, but it's going to get a little bit worse too, it doesn't make me feel any better about it.
But how do you like the Turner Mansion on the side plates?
Oh, I didn't even notice that. That's ridiculous. Really? They put that down in there?
Yeah.
Ugh. I hate it even more. It's not the worst title, there's been plenty worse. There's plenty uglier ones. I'd rather have this than the European Championship, for instance. But
Callum, please lambast us for talking way too much about the design of a championship.
Well, I think it's just like anything. It's like when the Universal Championship was first unveiled. It was something that people complained about, and on the surface was quite ugly. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, nobody cared about it anymore. So that's going to be what the case is for this championship.
That happens with some things, but I'm pretty sure that everybody still thinks that those Sentinel head tag titles are friggin' disgusting.
Oh yeah, but like but it's not like anyone just immediately.
Like nobody's talking.
They jump into it if like one person in Blue Moon talks about it, but other times they're just like, okay, it's just there. At the end of the day, it's a title.
24/7 title anymore.
Yeah, the most important thing is like the actual feuds and the people that's holding the championship. The title design. Obviously, you want to have a great title design more times than not, but it's not really going to be a big deciding factor in how great a championship will be.
Yeah, to be fair, too, it's not my least favorite AEW title. That's the women's.
You're still not a fan of the women's?
Yeah, not a fan of the egg shape at all. That still looks ridiculous. But, that's an element to this. Another element to it was Mike Tyson, ringside. He was having a ball.
He had fun. He had fun.
He was cheering and booing each side.
And yawning.
Just I don't quite understand why they needed to put him out there, but okay,
Because they could.
I think it's fine, like, if you want to have this kind of celebrity touch onto it. I love the fact that I think when I was on Fight TV and I was checking through these things, they have Mike Tyson's fight record on like as what, because he was listed as like one of the people appearing on the show. I just thought, surely the last time Tyson actually fought was way before Fight TV even got started, and yet they've got his like record in there as a case that he's going to make a big comeback at some point.
Well, that's what he's aiming for.
I know, but it's dumb, and I hope that he doesn't do that either. But I don't think they needed to be cutting to him at ringside as wildly often as they were doing, especially considering the fact that at one point they did cut to him and he was just stretching out and yawning and completely bored of what he was seeing in front of him, and they had to just immediately cut back to the action in the ring because of that.
How did you guys feel about the match itself? I liked it. I thought that it was pretty
It was
like
fine.
a standard Cody procedure where he's got a little bit more psychology than a lot of other matches do, and that it paid off pretty well because Archer looked good. He's got like power moves. Cody's the underdog fighting back, and Cody wins in the end with 2 crossroads, which makes sure that Lawrence Archer doesn't look like he could just take one of them and lose. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was a great match. Great's a little stretch, but it was, like you said, standard Cody procedure. A lot of gaga, a lot of Arn Anderson gets kicked out and yells bullshit, and then Jake, who it seemed like Arn Anderson was kind of on the side of, tries to bring out a snake, and then Arn Anderson, backs him off, and Jake runs away scared of Mike Tyson, and Cody wins quick. Lance Archer can bounce back from this. I think it was a mistake to have Archer go up against Cody in such an important match, and you knew Cody had to win. But I think we'll be able to get over it.
Yeah, I think this was a really good match. You know what you're getting with Cody. It's a lot of melodrama. It's a lot of gaga, as Rob says. It's more leaning towards a storytelling element, but it's still well wrestled. I thought Archer was presented as the monster that he was, and Cody took one hell of a beating during it. I mean, he was thrown for like gorilla press slammed over the top of the ring, like from the ring over the ring post to the floor. So he took a beating to win this title. I think that there were some interesting hints towards it, like Cody hit a DDT at one point, which obviously infuriated Roberts, and then Archer followed that up by hitting a spine buster. So I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility, even though I think that it would be a huge mistake if they did some sort of mixed tag team match.
Well, it wouldn't be a mixed tag team match; it'd just be a tag team match.
Well, yeah. It's basically a mixed tag team match because, like,
You have to book
I
it
imagine
in that kind of way.
Yeah. If they're going to get any sort of involvement, it'll be just for a couple of seconds, and they'd only be fighting each other.
Well, JR, I have to call out Cranky JR because it's becoming like, I guess I tried to ignore it for as long as possible, and now it's just grinding my gears every time. Cody hits the DDT, and then JR just feels the need to go, well, Jake does it better, because at least when Jake does a DDT, people actually stay down. And it's like, Jesus, Jim, it's not about that right now. Like, Jim just seems so cranky.
Push.
And I don't think there's any coming back for him.
Jim's great. Stop having a go. It's like I'm still like listening to all these ones and thinking, yeah, he might be obviously older, and he's definitely not as good as he was back in the like 90s and early 2000s. Still way better than any WWE commentator they have right now.
I can't agree with
I've been
that
liking
at that
Shivani
point.
better.
Yeah, Shivani's the best out of the bunch that they've got.
Oh, Shivani's better than him, yeah, but I'd say both of them are better than any WWE commentator right now.
Well, I'm not arguing with you on that point. I'm just saying Jim's been very cranky lately, and it's been getting to me.
I think it was quite interesting that Cody hit a Stinger Splash at one point in this match.
Yeah,
I think it might be a prelude to something.
I'm telling you, I see Sting in AEW
he's going
all out.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a part of it in some fashion, for sure. Whether he wrestles or he presents a championship or he becomes a mentor to somebody, he's doing something. for sure. So we have Cody wins the title. Good way to go about that. We already kind of talked about that, so I don't really think we need to hit up that for the most part. But what I do think that we need to hit on is a couple plugs really quickly in the middle of this. One of them being the Patreon. Obviously, if you want us to do more talk about whatever you want us to talk about, then there are plenty of different avenues to do that. You could always just express that opinion, and we'll take that into consideration. But if you want to make sure we do something in particular, then check out the Pick Your Poison tier on Patreon, because if you donate to that tier, then you can actually dictate what type of special feature that we're going to do, or like a gimmick kind of thing on the Smark Out Moment side of things, or the Fanboys Anonymous side of things. Because if you don't know, Fanboys Anonymous is my website about movie reviews and things on the geek culture spectrum, and has the same sort of setup as the Smark Out Moment Patreon. So even if it's $1, it goes a long way, and it just helps us keep the lights on. But $10 and up gives you access to the Patreon exclusive episodes, and then when you get to the mailbag priority and you get to the Pick Your Poison tier, then you get a little bit more of control over what we do on this. So if you got the spare change, consider tossing it our way. And another way to do that is the merchandise shops on TeePublic and Redbubble. There are both TeePublic and Redbubble shops for Smark Out Moment, Fanboys Anonymous, and A Mango Tees. So go ahead and browse all those designs. There's plenty of different products for each of those designs as well. Somebody recently just bought earlier today. I don't know quite why, but they got one of the masks of the thing that says Ant-Man is on my shirt. I thought that was kind of funny. So somebody out there is going to wear a mask that says Ant-Man is on my shirt and points to that. I don't get it, but if you're out there, thank you for that. There's plenty of different options like that. So by all means, go ahead and browse. And if you see something that's interesting, pick it up. If you have an idea that you don't see out there, then toss it my way and I'll see what I can do. Move on over to the Kris Statlander beating Penelope Ford match. This was originally supposed to be Britt Baker instead of Statlander, and Baker is out with an injury that they are going to address on Dynamite. And it was just a filler match. I really have literally nothing to say about it.
Yeah, they addressed Baker's injury a little bit here. Said it's a torn LCL and a bit of a tibia injury as well. And Baker is such a role model that she's going to address the public herself on Dynamite.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this match. It just didn't have anything going for it and wasn't particularly memorable in any way. Like it's good to give these girls a platform because they are talented, and it wasn't like this match was botch laden or was terrible in any stretch of the imagination. It's just that the show was already going to go well over 3 hours, like close to 4 hours even. So I probably would have been, I wouldn't say happier, but would have been okay if this had been just left off and not happened at all.
Yes.
Which I could probably say about the match that followed it as well.
Yeah, we should just go into that because that was my lowest point of the whole night. Like, I thought that I was going to end up having to write up something about the Ford and Statlander match being a low point, which it wasn't bad. It was just kind of a non-entity. But the Shawn Spears versus Dustin Rhodes thing, that sucked. And it sucked on multiple levels. They didn't have like a feud really going into this. The foundation was essentially just Shawn Spears doesn't like the Rhodes family. He hasn't for a year. Okay. And he challenged Dustin Rhodes to a match just because they just wanted to have him on the card. And they do this tease where it's like, well, he's not going to show up. Then it's like, oh, but he does. And I'm thinking, this would have been so much more fun to have somebody else show up. I don't know who, but somebody else showing up, that could have been fun. Instead, it's just like, oh, Dustin is there. And I'm like, crap, we're going to have a match. Like, I really didn't want to see it. And the match itself turns into Shawn Spears getting stripped and having Tully Blanchard's face on his crotch and his ass crack hanging out. And he loses to Dustin Rhodes. And I'm like, you accomplished nothing in this other than making Spears look worse. Dustin doesn't get anything out of this. He's not like going to get some world title push. Spears is already suffering from not looking like he's a relevant title contender. And now he is even more of a joke and further downward in a spiral. It wasn't funny. And I think that if you did this exact same thing whoever, for the most part, is listening to this and watching this and whatever and loved this, I got a feeling if you watched this on WWE and it was literally a copy and paste, a lot of those people would hate it. And that kind of bugs me.
I'll agree with you on the latter point, even though after I heard your disdain for this, I don't think I disliked this as much as you did. I just thought it was pointless. When Blanchard's face was on Spears' underwear, for a second I thought like they were trying to say that his dick was out, because I only saw it from the corner of my eye and I went, well, what am I looking at? But it was a fine bit. Like, Spears looks weak, but he'll survive. And Dustin looks good, and I guess that's important for them.
I was say that this is like very low level WWE stuff, like scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, it's just not good.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really, because I don't really associate AEW with this. It's not like I try and lift them up on a higher pedestal or anything like that. It's just you don't expect it to be this base and crass and really unfunny. Like they make the talk about the fact that it's so embarrassing that he got stripped to his underwear, forgetting the fact that most wrestlers wrestle in what essentially amounts to underwear in the first place anyway. So I can't really see how that's as big
I
of an
always
issue.
love that. I love that because you're right. It's like you wrestle in less than that. Why are you upset about being in your boxers?
Right. That's that whole argument of why are people so upset if you see them in lingerie, but they're totally fine with a bikini. Never makes any sense.
Yeah, and they had to make it like they had to try and make it embarrassing by putting the picture of Tully Blanchard on the front of the pants, just to make it seem like, oh god, that's so like, oh, how stupid is Shawn Spears?
What a dickhead that Tully is, huh?
Yeah, and it doesn't do anything for either guy really, and I guess the real thing is, if Spears thought that he was going to leave WWE and join AEW and get a bigger push, or at least be a more prominently featured guy, he's probably in the same position he was now as when he left WWE as Ty Dillinger.
He's in exactly the same position, except the
only difference is that
good.
I was going to say the only difference now is that he's a heel that's a loser rather than a babyface that's a loser.
Yeah, and that he's staying further away from his wife.
I've seen him be like, oh, a spot on the card is a spot on the card. Okay, then why did you leave WWE?
Mm-hmm.
If that's going to be your argument when somebody says you're not doing anything in AEW, if you're going to say a spot on the card is a spot on the card, why did you leave WWE?
Arguably as well, this is worse than the Perfect 10 gimmick, because the Perfect 10 was like, hey, he's number 10 in the Royal Rumble. Isn't that fun?
I mean, just look at his overall trajectory. I mean, he comes in reasonably hot with the Cody angle, but then he loses the match to Cody. Then he gets settled with Tully Blanchard, and you feel, okay, this is going to be him. Give him a mouthpiece. This will give him a bit more emphasis. Then he just hangs around in mid-card doing nothing. He has a feud with Joey Janela that goes nowhere. Then they start this quest for a tag team partner that just gets dropped for no reason. And now he's feuding with Dustin Rhodes, and despite that good like Shawn Spears TV segment from the previous Dynamite, now he's just been embarrassed again. So he's really not going anywhere in AEW.
He went from a jobber who had some potential, but they weren't clearly pushing, to a jobber who had some potential and they clearly aren't pushing.
What's the next step down? Does he go to Ring of Honor now, and then he becomes a jobber that he's not pushing, and then you go down to Impact, then you go down to NWA, and then
then he comes back
eventually
and he's Gavin Spears. And,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just not a big fan of this at all. My lowest point of the night by far.
Mm.
And we moved on to Hikaru Shida beating Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's World Championship in their no disqualification, no countout match, which was essentially a kendo stick match, which always bugs me because kendo sticks are my least favorite thing that they've done over the past bunch of years. It's just sort of this like ever since chairs stopped being a thing, everybody's just like kendo sticks all over the place, and they're just not as fun. I mean, it's certainly not like as dangerous, so I'm not gonna be like, oh, everybody should just beat the shit out of each other with chairs. But at the same time, I don't really pop for kendo sticks. So if an ODQ match is exactly the same as a normal match would be, except for one table spot and a kendo stick being used, then it's a normal match to me. And I wasn't loving it. I'm glad that Shida won the title, and I have no idea what the fuck she was wearing. It was like, I wrote down, is this 5 different outfits combined? Because she had like half of a skirt, she had suspenders, and all over the place there. But that was like one of my biggest takeaways about this. I just didn't really love it or anything. I got another note. Pineapple Pete was like, why that table gotta suffer?
I thought this fucking match was
I think.
fantastic.
I'll before you go, Rob, because I know you absolutely love this, so I'm going to give you the floor once you have the opportunity to, because I'll probably sit in the middle ground between you and Tony. Because I thought this match was really good. I wouldn't say it was bordering on great. I don't think it went quite that far, but I thought that Shida was great. Shida was absolutely fantastic in this match. I would give her so much credit for this. She was having a lot of great, like a lot of fiery kicks, and she was running around all over the place after Rose. When Rose was in control, the match kind of slowed down a little bit because she's not as mobile and not as active, but she was doing like the power spots really well. Shida took a hell of a beating, going through tables, going through like sending Nyla through a bunch of poker chips and stuff like that. I understand with Tony the idea that the kendo stick isn't really that remarkable weapon, especially because what we've seen with WWE more recently, but I think that it makes sense because that is the thing that Shida is associated with, so it made sense to have it incorporated a lot into this match. I thought the idea that she had to wear Rose down constantly towards the end made for a good finish. I personally would have preferred maybe they just ended with the Falcon Arrow spot, because that was like the big spot of the match, rather than having to go through the constant running knees towards the end of it. Like, you could have just cracked Rose over the head with the kendo stick, break the kendo stick there, and then hit the Falcon Arrow, and then you get the pinfall, and then that's more of a big moment than just having to constantly knee her down. But I guess it makes Rose look like the monster that she is, that she had to be worn down constantly and kept fighting back. So, but yeah, I'm happy with the win. I think Shida makes most sense as the champion going forward. Obviously, now there's no Britt Baker, and there won't be any Britt Baker for a while, so it changes the idea of who would be the next potential challenger for her. But I think that she has a lot of potential, and I think she could be a really strong top female babyface for AEW going forward.
If you wanted to highlight the Joshi division, she should have been the first champion to begin with. Shida is so good in the ring, and it was on display in this match tenfold. And I can understand what Callum is saying about Nyla Rose and agree with that, but I was so happy to see Shida shine, and I thought the no DQ gimmick actually worked well. I thought it enhanced the match and what the match could become. I will agree with Callum on the Falcon Arrow spot.
That's all 3 of us agree with that. That Falcon Arrow spot should have been the end, for sure.
Yeah, it should have been. It's like nobody should kick out of a top rope Falcon Arrow. But, c'est la vie. And I thought this was really good. The only thing I didn't like, and I won't harp on it, was I don't know the relationship between the 2 girls, but they kept insisting that this was a big moment for Shida because of what just tragically happened with Hana Kimura, and I just don't know if I would have wanted to keep bringing that up. That was a really tragic thing that I think people would have rather found an escape from with this.
Again, I think it obviously depends on what the relationship between Hana Kimura and Hikaru Shida are. I don't know if they ever really interacted that much, because I wasn't following their careers as closely. But if this is something like, I mean, who knows, maybe the fact that the outfit that Tony pointed out like had so many different things about it, it did to me bear at least a little resemblance to what Kimura used to wear.
Yeah,
So
it
maybe
had some Cyber Squad vibes.
Yeah, so maybe it had that sort of influence to it. So maybe that was part of it, and they wanted to tell that story, and maybe they informed Shida about it, and she was happy, she was okay with doing it. And I understand the idea that people want to escape from it, but maybe people just wanted to see it. They wanted to see AEW give some sort of tribute to her, which they did. They gave her a little like a graphic, and
Excalibur was very forthwith with what he said, which I thought was really good. But that was my only little nitpick. But again, if they were close, then by all means, please go for it. And I'm really glad that Shida's champion.
Yeah, and essentially just in case anyone needs to hear it, although I don't expect any of our fan base needs to hear this sort of stuff, but don't troll wrestlers online. Don't tag them in posts and insult them or anything like that.
Hold on.
What?
Don't troll anybody online. Don't
anyone. Yeah.
Don't be a fucking dick. And just what happened was an awful tragedy, and reach out if you feel like you need to, and don't be a dick.
There's a difference between playful ball busting and being a jerk and being awful. Know the limits. If you don't know the limits, don't say anything.
Absolutely.
Let's see. We moved on to the AEW World Championship match. Jon Moxley against Mr. Brodie Lee. They reiterated, hey, did you know Brodie Lee doesn't like when people sneeze? I get it. It's a Vince parody. You keep denying it. Come on. Honestly, this didn't really hold my attention. And partially, that's just me to blame. So if I went back and I watched it, maybe I would have an opinion. But from what I did see here and there, it wasn't the full 100% scope of my attention. But what I did see, I was feeling disappointed again because I thought that this would have been better as a no DQ match. And I feel like the best spot of the night was a no DQ type of spot, which was the paradigm shift through the stage. So I can't help but feel like maybe that's where they should have gone. Maybe the Nyla Rose match shouldn't have been no DQ or something like that. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. Maybe they're going to do a no DQ match down the line and they just want to stretch this out a little bit. I didn't expect the match to be one with a sleeper either. So the fact that Brodie Lee didn't tap out or didn't get pinned, maybe they have a little bit of wiggle room there. But if that's the case, then we're getting back into one of those things that WWE does, and I gotta fault them for this too. Anybody who does it. Anytime that I feel like something happens and you're building something up, and when you get to the end result is, well, we're not going to give you all of it because we want you to just do this again, it's bothersome to me. So either this is their one match and I was underwhelmed, or this was setting up another match, in which case just do that match,
I would say that I really enjoyed this match as well. I thought that I can understand maybe there's some sort of feeling of underwhelming, maybe the no DQ thing, but I kind of walked out of this match feeling like they did everything they kind of needed to do if it was a no DQ match, without like needing to just resort to weapons or anything like that, which I don't think would have added any value to it by the end. By the end, I didn't think it added any value because these guys just beat the shit out of each other anyway. So I didn't feel in any way disappointed they weren't using weapons or they weren't using any sort of like table spots or anything like that. Because essentially Moxley went through a table. Well, actually, it was Lee went through a table at one point. Moxley and Lee both went through the stage. Moxley went through like a guardrail at some point. So yeah, they basically did everything they needed to do that could be kind of conveyed as not being a disqualification, even though you'd still see those sort of spots in a no DQ match. And yeah, it was very, very physical. The thing I appreciated the most out of this was the fact that it was like markedly different from most of the other, pretty much every other match on the entire show, was just how physical and how like very like Japanese New Japan style it was. So I really appreciated it and thought, even though it wasn't my favorite match of the night, it was still a fitting main event of the actual stuff that was taking place in the arena.
At first, I was very much in line with Tony, and I wasn't feeling it, and maybe that was just me, because Like, it was getting later and later and later, and I just wasn't feeling the length of the show. But when they turned it up and they started brawling on the outside and they did the paradigm shift through the ring, and then you think it's just over and Brodie Lee starts kicking out like a monster, they sold me on Brodie Lee with the end of this match. And I think he's going to do even better things than I initially thought. And I'm okay with the choke out finish because Brodie Lee doesn't tap, Brodie Lee doesn't submit, Brodie Lee doesn't get pinned. He just happened to lose consciousness for a second. And I'm good with that. And while I'm talking here about Jon Moxley, it was confirmed via a virtual media scrum that Fyter Fest is returning, and it will be headlined by Jon Moxley against Brian Cage.
When is it supposed to take place?
We will find out on Dynamite.
Huh. Strange.
Well, at least we've got that all cleared up then. But yeah, I mean, I think that this match has done more me personally to strengthen the appeal of the Brodie Lee character than anything that I've seen on Dynamite so far. So that was the positive that I took away from it. And yeah, it makes sense that Moxley holds onto the title, even if he kind of I don't think it hurts Lee too much, but he needs to come back with something that kind of makes the Dark Order feel like they're meaningful at this point, because they keep losing opportunities. So there needs to be some sort of backlash. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing as long as there's a response, there's a story built up surrounding that. If it's just a case of they've just lost interest in the Dark Order and they're slowly phasing them out, that's not a good sign.
I have nothing else to say about that other than the main event. Anything else you guys have for the championship?
I want to say something about the championship, but I want to say something about the arena show before we move on to the thing that happened in the stadium. Big Swole was essentially a big part in basically every match that took place on this show, because she was just so animated at ringside. And a lot of people really enjoyed it. I found it a little bit overbearing on some of the matches where she was basically just getting in the face of people like Lance Archer and Nyla Rose constantly. It's like she was just gearing up to jump the barricade every time a heel came anywhere near her.
I didn't.
So I thought that was interesting.
I didn't catch all that. I saw her here and there.
I thought she was great. I thought Vicky was a little too over animated. If they're not going to do anything with her, I thought that was a little strange. At some point, she was almost overbearing, like her WWE character. But I think they have consistently done the no fans shows better than WWE.
Oh, there's no question about it. This is so much easier to watch.
And well, it's just a case of the fact that they technically do have fans, but they're just the wrestlers, which is even better, really, because then they're fans that you can tell to do what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to respond to different people, and it's starting to like form in my head that actually wrestlers also make the best fans, like because they all like go along with the story a lot more than fans actually will do.
Oddly enough, not the opposite around though. Fans don't always make the best wrestlers. Yeah, that was a lot easier to handle than something like Money in the Bank. And for that matter, cinematic matches go. We had the Stadium Stampede match that was the main event of the night. Inner Circle against the Elite. The Elite comes out victorious. I thought that this was so fun. I really loved that I had Caroline next to me watching it, and she was going, "This makes no sense. Straight men are so weird. Why are they all fighting each other? Why are they all fighting at the same time? This is like opening up a bag of chips, and the chips fall all over the place, and you don't know what to do next."
Why the line about straight men being weird?
Always the food references. She is consistent.
Yeah.
So I popped about that, but I loved this. The football entrances, being silly, and there's a difference between the silly of this and the silly of the Shawn Spears thing. Like the one of them is kind of playing more to my sense of humor than the other one is, because like, yeah, they've got the football field, they're having the football entrances. Kind of funny if the Inner Circle is like, all right, well, you're number 93 and you're whatever, and You know, they have the cheerleaders, they have the horse.
I enjoyed the horse.
It's a whole checklist of things. I wrote down a bunch of different stuff here.
Yeah, there's so much that happens in this match that it's hard to really just break all of it down. I can sum it up like as an overall thing, just saying this is probably the most fun match that I've seen all year. It's not the best match I've seen all year because I still can't technically class any of these cinematic matches as quote unquote matches because they're just not belt to belt things, and so I kind of see them as like their own outside category. I almost feel like if we were to do like our like award show, we'd have to have an actual like cinematic match category as opposed to just typical matches. But I had a smile on my face basically from the start of this all the way through because some bits were a bit too goofy. Like I'm still don't know entirely about the whole Hardy switching characters midway through the match. Like maybe that's going a little bit too far, but it's just a load of fun, and I really enjoyed pretty much everything that happened in this.
Yeah, this was fantastic. Just to go through a few of my favorite things, I enjoyed, like I said, everything Sammy Guevara did, especially running away from the horse. Hangman drinking in the bar, and then he slides the glass over to Hager and he goes, "Did you come here to fight or did you come here to drink?" And
Yeah.
And they just start fighting, and then he has a moment where he actually kind of makes up with Kenny Omega and hands him some milk because I guess Omega doesn't drink, and they have that nice little moment. Matt Hardy and the Lake of Reincarnation stuff. The Matt Facts returned. That was beautiful.
I popped for that really loud.
Yeah, like that was fantastic. I enjoyed the stupidity that was Matt Jackson, Northern Lights suplexing.
That was the greatest. That was my favorite spot of the entire thing.
That was one of my favorites for sure.
And then they get to the end zone and he spikes Guevara's head down like if he's spiking a football. I thought that was great. The Alex Wright celebration.
And then that celebration gets him a flag for
and then he super kicks the ref.
Yeah. The use of the flag for I want to do the recount, the replay of the pinfall count.
Yeah.
I was
Jericho hitting the Judas effect on the mascot. That was.
I was having flashbacks of the Simpsons football in the groin when Jericho got hit with the football. We have the version 1 thing. We have the whole thing with Ortiz can't swim. I was not expecting there was a pool there. Did not know the layout of that, so that was like I don't know where.
Why not?
There's a pool. Okay, whatever. I
enjoyed the cheerleaders just being like just on the sidelines for whatever reason. I guess because they're just there. They're at their disposal. They really did a good job with this. We have this room to play with. Let's play.
Right. And I also wrote down this as one of these things. This was not a planned moment, but I thought that this was one of the most unintentionally hilarious ones. Jim Ross trying to play around with the whole like how Matt Hardy says things as like the Bucks of Youth or whatever. He said instead of for the wheelchair, instead of the wheel of chairs, he said the chair of wheels.
No,
instead of the chair wheels,
he said the wheel of chairs.
I'm doing the opposite thing. I'm pulling out Jim Ross on this. The wheel of chairs is what he had said, which to me, I just pictured this big Ferris wheel with just a whole bunch of chairs attached to it. I thought that was hilarious.
There was a lot of stuff like, you know, what are we even seeing? What Tony? He's JR was trying his best to do the whole I know football. Like he goes on a little 45-second thing about Dick Butkus being number 51. I thought that was a good time. Everybody played their role very strongly here, and then of course it ends with Sammy Guevara eating a fucking one-winged angel off the stands because Sammy Guevara is making it known that he's the workhorse that would, take anything right now. He got hit with the golf cart again.
No, he got chased by the golf cart.
Oh no, that's right. Because he
ran the entire
length
of the field.
Fantastic. He is gonna go so far.
Yeah, it's hard to really pick on like an MVP in this match because just how like everyone really got a chance to shine and do some really cool stuff. But I just constantly find myself drawn to Sammy Guevara and just how incredible he is, just this shitty heel that just never ever gets his way, but always just comes back, always feeling so cocky and confident about every situation he's about to go into, even though he always ends up on the losing side of things. It's just he's like I don't know, he's not a jobber, but he's like basically should be a jobber, but he's like the perfect jobber in the case that he's pretty much untouchable because he can always come back and win a title the very next week and you don't really question it.
Yeah, this was just a lot of fun. Easily my favorite part of the night. And
I wanted to be mad that it was 12 o'clock in the morning, but I couldn't be because I was enjoying myself, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good way to go.
Definitely the good way to go. And the highlight of the night, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm still looking forward to the Blood and Guts match, even though I don't think it's going to be as good as this one is. But that's going to be a different sort of affair, so maybe it'll be good in a different way. But at the very least, if this is the end of the feud and they don't do that, I'm cool with it. This was fun.
They're going to do it, Tony.
They will, but you never know. Look in February, did we know any of this stuff was going to happen this year?
Fair point.
Yeah.
So when the Murder Hornets go away and when the next big thing happens for June, God knows what we have ahead of us. But yeah, that's Double or Nothing. Some good things, some bad things. Nothing horrible about it, so that's really good. But overall, I'm happy with it. It's not the best thing in the world, but I got some highlights. It's cool. How you guys feeling about it overall?
Thumbs up.
Yeah, overall, I think this is. I walked away with a smile on my face, and that's usually all I ask for. But I think that this was this was the best show, in my opinion, of the entire like coronavirus era, from start to finish.
I really hope that we don't end up making this like a full-on era. It seems like it is, but it's gonna be weird to be like.
Well, WWE will in their documentary series that will come up after this.
Yeah, it seems weird to have to go from like, the golden age and like the attitude era and new gen era and ruthless aggression era and COVID era. Like it was just kind of.
Well, they won't call it the COVID era; they'll call it just the no fans era or the empty arena era or something like that because they can't use the word COVID.
They'll call it the cinematic era. You guys know they're not gonna credit anything to a virus.
The prevailing circumstances era.
Maybe it's just the empty era or something. It's quick and efficient. The I don't know. Well, we'll see how that happens in the future. But at least as far as the future is concerned, that's it for this week for the show. Next week we're gonna roll along with we're gonna do hot tags, of course, and we were still debating a little bit about back and forth about what the main event's going to be. It's either going to be a tier list of the WWE roster, or I should say, or depending on what circumstances and what time we have and stuff, possibly the takeover in your house reference being a fan announce table of the first in your house from the WWF era. Might do that. I don't know. Still trying to figure it out. That'll happen probably on Wednesday or so stay tuned, and it'll happen when it happens. As I mentioned before, if you subscribe to the channel and you ring that little notification bell, then you'll be aware of when those things get posted, whatever it ends up being. And then we're going to keep things going along with the rest of the stuff over the next couple of weeks. We've got the Takeover in Your House stuff to go into. We've got Backlash and more pay-per-views, and we're just going to kind of roll along here. But hopefully, if you enjoyed this and you enjoyed all the things that we've been doing else outside of this, you'll continue to enjoy everything else we've got going forward. I got my plugs out of the way. These guys have some other plugs, though. Rob?
Yeah, if you've been enjoying this and you want more wrestling, you can check out WrestleZone.com and Fightful.com. I'll be on Fightful for the rest of the weekend, covering all the goodness of AEW, including the Fyter Fest announcement I just spoke about earlier. And if you want to follow me personally, you can do so on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. Callum?
You can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14, and if you haven't got enough wrestling from WrestleZone and Fightful, then head on over to smarkoutmoment.com and check out all the articles on there, including my weekly contribution, the Power Rankings, but every other weekly article, every other editorial, every other little bit and pieces. Check out the heel and face thing, because I know Tony loves that. And yeah, that's it from me.
All right, everybody. As I mentioned before, hopefully you've enjoyed this and you've enjoyed the podcast and all the other kind of things that go along with that. But whatever your opinion is, drop them in the comments below. Keep the discussion going. We'll be responding to those comments that you put out there, and we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.